It's a Monday. It's February 23rd. I'm Megan McKinney. It's Here First from IPR. Kansas has become the third state to pass a controversial pesticide label law. Harvest Public Media's Celia Yopes-Jepson reports on the push coming from Bayer, which faces lawsuits over Roundup.
Republicans in the Kansas House say the bill would let farmers do their jobs without worrying about frivolous lawsuits. But Democrats say the bill is designed to block people from suing chemical makers for not disclosing health risks. Modern Ag Alliance is lobbying for the bill. It was founded by Bayer, which has lost billions of dollars over cancer claims related to Roundup. The Kansas Sierra Club says versions of the bill have popped up in a dozen states, including Missouri and Iowa. North Dakota and Georgia have passed it. I'm Celia Yopes-Jepson, Harvest Public Media.
U.S. Republican Representative Randy Feenstra says as Iowa governor, he would sign a bill to shield the makers of Roundup from lawsuits over the product's safety if the label follows federal guidelines.
I think it's always good to have this great discussion of what is safe and what is reliable and what makes sense. And that's what I'll do as a governor. I'll make sure we look at all the facts and make the right decisions from there.
President Donald Trump issued an executive order last week that seeks to provide some legal immunity to Bayer and ensure an adequate U.S. supply of Roundup's main ingredient, glyphosate. That sparked criticism from the Make America Healthy Again movement within the president's Make America Great Again coalition. Feenstra made his comments at the Iowa Beef Expo over the weekend. The search firm Des Moines Public Schools used to hire former Superintendent Ian Roberts is suing the district for defamation. Des Moines Register reports JG Consulting filed a countersuit last week. JG Consulting claims they upheld their end of the agreement with the district, which didn't require confirming the immigration or work status of candidates. Roberts was detained by ICE in September. The federal government says he was issued a removal order in 2024 and wasn't authorized to work in the country. The school district filed a lawsuit against the firm in October. The consulting company claims the district harmed its reputation with statements they made placing fault on the company. Healthcare providers say Iowans should continue to take precautions to stay healthy amid high respiratory virus activity in the state. Here's more from IPR's Natalie Krebs.
State health officials continue to report high levels of the flu and RSV in Iowa. Janae Brown is a nurse practitioner at Unity Point. She says emergency rooms in the Des Moines area continue to see high numbers of people with respiratory virus symptoms.
If you're having symptoms of the flu or RSV or COVID, go to your urgent care, go to your primary care provider. Save the ER for chest pain, weakness on one side, loss of vision, severe abdominal pain.
Brown says people who are sick should stay home and away from others, especially those who are at risk for getting severely ill, like infants and elderly people. According to state data, 30% of Iowans have received a flu shot so far this season. I'm Natalie Krebs, IPR News.
You're listening to Here First from IPR. I'm Megan McKinney. The Iowa legislature has passed the first funnel deadline. Most bills had to pass a committee in order to stay alive for the rest of the session. Here in just a moment, we'll take a look at the bills that have and haven't moved forward past this key deadline. Stay with us for Legislative Monday. Welcome back to this Legislative Monday of Here First from IPR. I'm Megan McKinney. Back again to update us on how the legislative session is shaping up is IPR's Katerina Sostark. Good morning, Katerina.
Good morning, Megan.
Republican lawmakers reached an agreement on K-12 school funding. What's the latest deal?
Late last week, Republican leaders landed on a 2% increase for K-12 per student funding. That's what Governor Kim Reynolds proposed. Senate Republicans wanted a bit less than that. House Republicans wanted a bit more. So it's not that surprising they compromised in the middle. And that increase will amount to an additional $160 per student next year for a total of nearly $8,200 per student in state funding. The House passed that bill last week, and now it's back in the Senate's hands.
And what have educators said about funding schools at this level?
Public school leaders have expressed a lot of concerns about the 2% increase because they say that doesn't keep up with inflation. So as they're looking at giving salary increases and keeping up with other rising costs, as well as some districts experiencing declining enrollment, many schools are needing to make budget cuts even though the amount of money they're getting from the state is increasing. And Republicans have pushed back on this, saying that the 2% is responsible and sustainable, and that K-12 schools are technically getting more money from the state than ever before in terms of the dollar amount.
Last Friday was an important deadline for most bills this session. If they didn't pass a committee, they are considered dead for the remainder of the session. What were some proposals that advanced last week?
Most of the bills we've been covering at IPR are still alive, like eminent domain legislation, ending school vaccine requirements, restricting mail-order abortion pills, and changing eligibility for public assistance programs. Last week, we also saw a bill advance that would change the structure of some early childhood programs in the state, giving the state health department control over certain services that are currently overseen by Early Childhood Iowa local boards. And there's a proposal to allow people who are dropping off their kids at school to have a gun in their car on school grounds, and 3 bills advanced that would restrict some powers of the governor.
How would those 3 bills limit the governor's powers?
2 of them target things that happened during the COVID pandemic. One bill would prohibit the governor from closing places of worship, and another would restrict the governor's ability to extend a state of emergency or public health disaster proclamation. And it would prevent the governor from ordering businesses to close, changing election procedures, stopping visits to healthcare facilities, and more. There's also a 3rd bill that would make it harder for the executive branch to implement major administrative rule changes, and it would shorten the terms of service for some governor's appointees. These bills have advanced in a year that has a potentially very competitive governor's race, and House Speaker Pat Grassley has been asked about that, and he said, whether a Democrat or Republican is elected governor this year, there will be a new governor. And he said a lot of things in these bills are issues that some Republicans have been concerned about since the pandemic.
On the flip side, what proposals did not make it?
Last week, a bill that would ban all abortions except in medical emergencies was scheduled for a subcommittee hearing, but then that was canceled, so that bill has failed to advance. There was also a bill that would severely limit lawsuits against the state that was killed, and a bill that would have required libraries to have a separate adult section where minors would need parental consent also failed to advance. But it's worth noting that Republican leaders can always find ways to bring back bills that seem to have died.
What does the next part of this session look like? What will you be following?
Now that we've passed the first so-called funnel deadline, there will be a lot more floor debate by the full House and Senate. And then the House and Senate will have to start trying to convince each other to advance their priorities. And I'll be watching to see if Republicans can come to agreements on some of their top priorities in the coming weeks, like property taxes and eminent domain.
All right. Thank you, Katerina.
Thanks, Megan.
And thank you for taking the time to be informed on what's happening in your state. I'm Megan McKenney. It's Here First from IPR.